Welcome to my weekly blog, and we've got something very exciting to discuss this week. So, about 2 years ago, well no, in fact even more than that, about 2.5 years ago, we went through a phase of doing things collectively, and so one of the projects that we were going to do was sort of like joint food and stuff like that. And at that time, one of the things that looked really exciting, it never got off the ground at all, but one of the things that looked exciting was to do a joint venture in gardening, because we were all absolutely fantastic. We all had our own little plantations, and we thought, why not try and do an allotment? So I phoned round all the allotments in Harrogate and I signed myself up for them, and of course they all say, we've got extremely long waiting lists, blah blah blah, and we'll let you know when a space becomes available. And obviously the days passed and the years passed, and I got a phone call about, how long was it ago? Not very long, about 2 weeks ago, from a lady called Brenda Black, who manages one of the allotments. Now, some of the allotments are council owned and some of them privately owned, and this is a privately owned one, so it wasn't the one on Claro Road which we had hoped for. It was another one which is sort of right out, well, it's not right out, but it's near Bilton Gorge, basically. It's in that direction. Which is good, because I've obviously moved since the time that we were going to do this joint venture to Markenfield, and we're halfway between that garden is basically halfway between all the parties that are going to be using it. So I said, well, it's been a long time since we had thought of this idea. Frankly, we'd forgotten that we'd even sort of signed up for it, basically. And I was like, honestly, where on earth is this allotment? And we had to look on Google Earth to find it, because we didn't know which allotment it was, where it was. Anyway, we had a meeting on Thursday, all parties concerned, where we were going to view the gardens, and there were two possible allotments for us. One of them was extremely big, and I do mean extremely big. It was also prone to flooding because of the way the earth was. It was on the side of a hill that was sloping down, so when it rained, it would fill with water, and while the lady sort of did her best to assure me that, it would drain away, I was not convinced, particularly not with the weather's being as it is. It's only going to get more wet, probably, so it's not very sensible to choose an allotment that floods, is it? So we said, well, no, we don't want that one. So we had a look at the other one, which was much smaller, still larger than anything that we've sort of tackled before. And she said, look, the challenge here is that it's basically a plot that's turned into wasteland. Nobody's touched it in I don't know how many years, maybe a year or so, and it's just basically covered with weeds. It's got a little shed, which is good. It's also got a glass house. It's not a greenhouse. It's like a wooden hut, but one side is completely glass, so you can grow things under glass, basically. And then it's got a square, nearly square patch, which is just filled with weeds and stuff. And I thought, I've done this before, right? When we were back in Lincoln, and I was sort of preparing an area to do my first ever plantation, it was like that. It was just full of weeds, and the first thing you had to do is literally ground clearance. Now, we are in the situation where we are now coming to the point where if we want to harvest this year, we're too late, because things should be growing, things should be flowering, because in about 2 months' time you're going to expect to have your harvest. And so what she said was, look, we won't charge you for the rest of this year, because that would be up to November when they have their meeting. There, as a sort of community, they meet and set prices and stuff like that. And she said, but we would charge at the moment £30 a year, so we take that in bond, and basically we'd have to pay nothing for a year and a half. Which is good because, of course, this is the season, or autumn is the season, where you would want to clear any land before planting for the next harvest, and it's large enough that we could carve out a little bit and plant winter veg for this year. So I said, well, thank you very much. We'll go away. We'll think about it. We'll give you an answer by the end of the week, because of course this was on Thursday. And so we went away and we slept on it, and we thought, look, the only problem that we have is the time. Obviously, nobody can predict what they're going to be doing, next year. However, we had wanted an allotment. We thought we could make it work. It's in partnership, so it's not just being solely financed by me. There's a partnership. There's a certain amount of money sharing with what you can, the tools and stuff. It's not that far away from either of the locations, and so I thought, well, I'm prepared to make it work, but I think I'll leave the final decision to whether the people that are going to come in with me, whether they will be able to spare that sort of time or not, and they've decided they have. So we phoned up the woman Brenda today, and as far as I know, hopefully the exchange has already taken place. It's gone past 1 o'clock, which is when hopefully the keys were going to be transferred, etc, etc. I haven't heard anything, which probably means good news. So hopefully the allotment, at least by the end of the day, we'll have confirmation that the allotment's ours, and we can start work on it. What it will mean for me is that I'm going to shift the plantation. After the harvest this year, there will be no plantation in my back garden. Instead, I don't know what I'll do with that yet, but I'm going to shift my side of the plantation completely to that allotment patch, because it just makes more sense, basically. There's no point in having your own vegetable patch and an allotment as well. It's no point. So that is this week's exciting news, and there's not a lot else to say, so I think I will, as we've had the solstice review this week as well, I think I'll just leave it at that.